Welcome to Taittinger's series of podcaps, audio programs that will take you on a journey to discover the soul of Taittinger champagnes. It's summer with long-awaited reunions on the terrace and the sun is shining. It's time to take a seat in the shadow of champagne and enjoy the perfect tasting. But how is this sublime and delicious beverage produced? Through 8 episodes in this new season of podcaps, you'll find out all about 8 key stages in the production of champagne. So the harvest is over and bottling can begin. But first, there's another stage, blending. Blending allows us to produce unique champagnes according to grape variety, cru and year. Listen to Damien Lesueur, General Director of Maison Taittinger, as he explains all about it.
L'assemblage. Un gros mot champenois. Qu'est-ce que c'est l'assemblage?
Blending is two things. First, it's a time, and then it's an art. So, a time is the time when the cellar master and the house teams get together to take stock of the year's wines, the wines that were created after vinification. We take time to prepare our wines. So then, we have our wines, and in winter, they get to rest a while. Then, at the start of the year, the time comes for us to taste these wines and rediscover them. They are then ready for us to blend. In other words, we mix them, combine one with another in order to outline the year's various cuvées. So, there are 2 types of blending. Blending of vintage wines, which are only created from wines of that year's harvest, and blending of non-vintage brut, which are wines where we blend that year's wines with wines from other years, from other vintages. Finally, in this blend, we have a collection of non-vintage brut and a collection of different vintages, which will make the cuvée more complex. So it's the time when we create the signature of the wine, in keeping with the style of the house, just before we bottle our wines.
Et après, c'est un art.
And then,
C'est un art
it's
parce
an
que c'est
art.
véritablement le moment.
It's an art because this is really the time when the cellar master writes the year's wine history around a style, a story, a feeling. It's an extremely interesting piece of creative work. We have hundreds and hundreds of vats around us that can be used in the year's blend from different areas. At Taittinger, there are around 50 or 60 different terroirs with several grape varieties, including 3 champagne varieties. And then for a non-vintage, from several years. Traditionally, we work with 2, 3, 4 years, and we can go back a great number of years to add a touch of spice, a bit like a chef who adds a pinch of salt or pepper. We can go and find a cuvée from 5 to 10 years before, because we know that it has a particular enological characteristic, and will add an extra touch of soul to the cuvée we're creating. So what is this art exactly? It's a task where we really have to predict the results. We have to respect the style of the house's own signature. In other words, when the consumer goes for a bottle of Taittinger, he or she knows that Taittinger tells a story, so we have to create a wine that will tell that story. However, the consumer will taste the wine at least 3 or 4 years after blending, and for the house's most prestigious cuvées, up to 10 years after. So we really have to predict how it will turn out. The cellar master works on the potential and the blend, and it is described as it is created, as it is outlined, has to be something that reveals itself over time. In fact, when we blend in anticipation of the potential, in anticipation of a revelation, bearing in mind that this revelation isn't going to be immediate. If we ever blend wines with a view to tasting them 3 years later, it's not the same job as blending with a view to revealing their taste 10, 15 or 20 years later. Everything the cellar master does, everything the house's enology teams do, really is focused on respecting the house's style and, at the same time, predicting what the wines will be like when consumers open them at their table.
Et à la fois dans la projection de ce que seront les vins au moment où le consommateur les ouvrira sur sa table.
Do you want to discover the next stage in the production of Taittinger champagne? Find all the episodes on The Instant Win on podcast platforms and on our blog, theinstantwin.taittinger.fr.